Hello, my name is Jiayuan and you can call me Janice. I'm a senior, class of 2017 at the Bronx High School of Science in New York City. Welcome to Lesson 5 of this free introductory JavaScript course. In this lesson, we will code a little JavaScript application for converting temperature from Fahrenheit to Celsius and vice versa. The user enters a temperature to convert, clicks a button, and a converted temperature appears. As we do this project, we will need to review and build upon what we learned in previous lessons about variables, functions, and if-else logic. So let's get started. For this lesson, we need the Lesson 05 starter file open, and you can get that from the description box, and there you can also find the image that we will be using, so download that as well. After you have the starter file open, do a file save as, and rename it Lesson 05 temp convert. Save it and just close out the starter file. So as you can see in the starter file, we have some basic CSS and a div already done, and just preview in the browser to see what it looks like. So we have a pretty box with a picture inside and an H1 of temperature converter. For the user to input the temperature they want to convert, either from Fahrenheit to Celsius or vice versa, we need something called an input object. Type an input tag and set the type equal to text and the ID equal to my num. To make sure that the user doesn't put too many numbers in the text field, let's just make the max length equal to 6, which means that the user can only input 6 numbers. And let's just do a little bit of inline CSS. So style equals quote width colon 70px semicolon font family colon sans serif semicolon, and set the font weight equal to bold colon bold. And finally, set the font size equal to 18px. So close the input object. Add a couple of line breaks in between the input object and the buttons that we will make. So type button with an on-click event of convert temp. So this will be the name of our function later on. And let's close the tag and name the button convert far to south. So that button will allow the user to convert the input from Fahrenheit to Celsius. We also need another button to convert from Celsius to Fahrenheit. So button on click, the same function, so convert temp. And this time it will be convert south to far. And type on the next line an H3 tag and set the ID equal to ans. And this is where we will output the final answer of the temperature. So now we're ready for some JavaScript. So go down after the div, type a pair of script tags. In there, make a function and name it convertTemp. Followed by a pair of parentheses, space, opening and closing curly braces. Let's just comment after the closing curly brace, end this function, just so we know where the function actually ends. Inside the function, first declare a local variable and name it myNum. And set that equal to document.getElement by ID myNum. And this means that the variable myNum will be equal to the value of the input object that the user enters. And also, it's not .innerHTML this time, but .value. So we're only retrieving the value that the user inputs. On the next line, another local variable called ans, and set that equal to 0. And that's where we output the answer. Now we are going to use something called a function parameter, which will tell us which button was clicked. So inside the button, for the first one, to convert from Fahrenheit to Celsius, put a 0 inside the parentheses and put a 1 inside the button that will convert Celsius to Fahrenheit. And down here in the function, put a t as the parameter. So the value of t will be either 0 or 1 depending on which button was clicked. And we can use that parameter in an if-else statement to determine which conversion to use depending on the button clicked. So now go after the variables and type an if statement. So if t is equal to 0, and notice there are two equal signs, which means we're comparing the two on both sides and not setting t equal to 0. So after that, type an opening and closing curly braces. Let's just make a comment in here. Convert F to C. And on the next line, type an else statement, opening and closing curly braces, and comment here inside, convert C to F. And let's also comment after the else that this is t equals to 1. So now we have to enter the actual calculation needed to find the answer from Fahrenheit to Celsius. So type ans equals parentheses myNum minus 32 closing parentheses times 5/9. That is the standard conversion from Fahrenheit to Celsius. And type ans equals myNum times 9/5 plus 32. So now we're not actually outputting anything yet. So after the if-else statement, do a document.getElement by ID command, and the ID is ans. .innerHTML, set that equal to ans, the variable. and do a save as and refresh your browser. And now we have this input object as well as the buttons. So let's try it. Let's do 100. Convert from Fahrenheit to Celsius. We get 37.8 degrees. And if you do this one, it's 212 degrees Fahrenheit. Notice that this decimal is too long. Let's shorten it to only 2 decimal places. To do that, go after the calculation and type ans, set that equal to ans dot to fixed. And in the parentheses, write 2. And that means the answer will get rounded to only 2 decimal places. And just copy this and paste it in the else. And save, refresh, same number. So it worked. We only have 2 decimal places now. So let's make it display both the input temperature as well as the output temperature. So go after the if statement. Inside it, do a document dot get element by ID, same thing, ans, and dot inner HTML. Set that equal to my num, which is the input temperature, plus quote ampersand deg semicolon f. This is the HTML entity for the degree symbol, followed by an F, so that is degrees Fahrenheit. Inside it, space, put space, equal space. Do another plus sign, ans, plus ampersand deg semicolon c, that is degrees Celsius. And just copy and paste this. Put it after the ans to fixed. And just change the C to F and F to C. Now, we can also take this one out. Save and refresh your browser. Now when we put 100, we get 37.78 degrees Celsius, as well as the input temperature. And the same thing here. We can try other numbers, such as 212. And we get 100 degrees Celsius and 413 degrees Fahrenheit. So, to wrap up, in this lesson, we learned how to use a function parameter and determining which code to run depending on which button was clicked. We also added more user interactivity by taking a value inputted by the user and performing calculations with it in our function. So that is it for lesson 5, and I'll see you in lesson 6.